Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my review of the book Light of the Veil by Richard Fox. This is the first book in his Star-Shattered Legacy series, coming to us from Baen Books. This is a book that was not on my radar earlier in the year. However, I went to DragonCon in September, and I was able to do all those interviews with all those authors. And one of the books that just came up with the authors and the editors when I interviewed them and talked with them was Light of the Veil. That book was brought up so much in our discussions. And then, of course, I went to the panel that they had at DragonCon. And at the panel, the editor and publisher Tony, she talked about how great the book was, and and other people were telling me you need to read this one. So I was like, all right, I'll put it on my TBR. I'll plan to read it. And then it got some great blurbs, and the blurbs are from Kevin Anderson and from Michael Stackpole. And what all the editors said was that this book is, for them, the new Star Wars. And Kevin Anderson and Michael Stackpole both reference Star Wars when they use their blurbs on the book. Michael's is on the back of the book with a couple other authors. And so I was like, okay, everyone's comparing this to Star Wars, and I love Star Wars books and Star Wars, so I'm going to give it a go. And after reading the book, I understand why they have those comparisons. There is something at the very beginning of the book that I could obviously point to. This is something from A New Hope that they borrowed. And then there's something about partially the way through the first act that reminded me of the TV show Star Wars Rebels. And then there's something at the end of the book, particularly the final battle, the final 30 pages of the book kind of remind me of the original trilogy battles at the end. So I totally, particularly in A New Hope and Return of the Jedi. So I totally understand why those comparisons to Star Wars are there, because I think there's a lot in the beginning and a lot at the end, and even there's something in the middle that I could see you compare to Dagobah from Star Wars. So the comparisons are there. So I understand why they were made. I wouldn't necessarily use that as the only barometer, because that's mostly talking about the beginning and the end. The middle portion of this book, which is about 70% of the book, actually, is heavily influenced, at least or it appears to be, by hard magic systems and heavy world-building elements. And when the story slows down, focuses on the character, but really focuses on the world-building and the hard magic system. Of course, hard magic systems are popularized by Brandon Sanderson in his fantasy series like the Stormlight Archive. And I can see how you compare. I don't know if Richard Fox read the Stormlight Archive. I don't know if he was influenced by that. But the ideas of the hard magic system are incredibly prevalent in this book. You basically have this thing that is the veil, which is they have to get these stones that connect to their weapons, and at the same time, the veil also is like this alternate dimension that they can go to, and not only do they get the stones from there, but they also travel in this alternate dimension, and it makes them go faster. It's basically how they go to light speed. And so the middle portion of this book is almost entirely set in that alternate dimension, on the quest to get the veil. Basically, you have to be of a certain age or younger to get the piece that attaches to your weapon to get the veil, and the main character is right on the cusp of no longer being able to do it. You have to be. It has basically once you turn into an adult, you only have a couple of years as an adult that you can do it. But it's basically from I think it's ages 12 to 23 is when you can do it, and our main character is 22, so he's right on the cusp. So he's not going to get this opportunity again, and so he has to do right. And so this book has a sense of urgency to it, And of course, there's bigger things going on. There is a greater conflict in the book that is fighting the what's known as fighting the tyrant, and the tyrant. Who is believed to be dead, but also maybe he may have emerged, or maybe someone else is taking over his forces. Maybe they're bigger than they thought. We don't really know. The tyrant is certainly present throughout the whole book, and it's obvious that that's part of the greater story planned for this series. But again, so much of the book is devoted to that world building, to that time beyond the veil, when they're trying to get to someplace called the Pinnacle. And for me, that element of hard magic system stuff is just not appealing to me. I was talking to one of my friends who's not a big book reader, but he reads some things, and he likes a lot of video games and stuff. And when I was describing this to him, he thought this was like delightful. He loves delving into lore. He loves exploring magic systems, seeing how the world building changes as the magic changes. Like, he was all over that. And so he was like, I need to give this a read. And I was like, interesting, because I can't necessarily recommend it, but you seem very interested in it. So this might be a case of it's just my personal style that's not interested in this, because I'm a very soft magic person in my terms of my enjoyment. I just want to see the characters fight. I just want to see the characters go on the journey. I don't really care about all the ins and outs of how the magic works. And even world building to a degree, like even in franchises that I love, like Star Trek and Star Wars and other things, I just don't care about like unless it's like a political world building, I don't care about the world building that much in books. Like the flora and fauna and the way that things work. Like, it's just not something that's appealing to me. But if it's appealing to you, if that's something you're interested in, you might enjoy this more than I did. And I don't think this is a bad book. I want to be clear that I think that this is a fine book. And the beginning and the end are solid enough and enjoyable enough that I would give the book a positive rating. I'd give the book an overall rating of about 6.5 out of 10. So it gets a positive rating. It's enjoyable. And particularly for me, the intro and the conclusion were very good. And that's what you want when you're writing a book. You want to have a solid intro and a solid conclusion. And some of the characters. The main character is Jace, and he is very relatable. He's your very average main character. And there are some other characters that are also pretty great. I think that Maru is a pretty good character that we get in this book. Sarai is also a good foil. There's a potential love interest in the book. I won't spoil what that is, but that was really cool. And so there were solid elements, even in the middle portion, that I really loved. And in fact, there's one scene in the middle portion that I thought was brilliantly executed. It was kind of obvious what it was doing, but it was, I thought, brilliantly executed. So there were good moments throughout, and my overall rating of the book is positive. But just note, you are going to have heavy world building, and you really have to think about things heavily. And I almost wonder, like, part of the book is you're learning about this universe with the main character, because he doesn't know anything about it really either. So having a glossary isn't necessarily the smartest idea, because you're learning with him. But at the same time, having a glossary would have helped, because I would have been able to understand things better, and I could check terms and stuff. But the world building is incredibly complex, and the magic system is incredibly complex. And it's sci-fi, but even sci-fi can have magic systems. So, as I said, overall, it's an enjoyable book, but I can't necessarily say, I recommend it to you. I will say, if you're someone who loves the magic systems and stuff, read this. If you're looking for a new sci-fi to enjoy, and you just want, casual sci-fi space opera stuff, I'm not sure that this is the book I'm going to heavily recommend. I have other books, even other books from Baen Books, that I would recommend instead. But overall, that's my review of Richard Fox's Light of the Veil, the first book in the Star-Shattered Legacy. There's a high chance I'll read the sequel just to see if it focuses more on the main conflict with the tyrant, and if it does, I'll probably enjoy it a lot more. But if it doesn't, I don't know. We'll see. But if you have gotten the opportunity to read this book came out in December of 2023. But if you've read this book, let me know your thoughts and comments down below, please. And please make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. But until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.